All right, and welcome back to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. Hope everybody had a good Christmas, and we are on our way into the new year, in which today we have a football game. So, should be a really exciting one, actually. A lot of playoff implications from this game. The Detroit Lions heading into Dallas to play the Cowboys. So, I'll start the injury report off with that game. Um, Out for the Lions is Brock Wright, James Houston, CJ Gardner Johnson, and then questionable is cornerback Cam Sutton. So all of the main guys that we like for the Lions will be healthy, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
For the Cowboys, Rico Dowdle and Jonathan Hankins will be missing, and offensive tackle Tyron Smith is questionable. So that could be fairly big, but all of our guys, CD, Dak, Tony Paul, everybody's healthy, so that's good to see. Into another huge game, the first Sunday morning game. The Dolphins heading into Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Out for the Dolphins is Jalen Waddle, which is very big.
hmm
And then doubtful is their guard Robert Hunt. Questionable is quite a list. They have Raheem Mostert, Liam Eichenberg, another offensive lineman, an offensive tackle Austin Jackson, another guard Lester Cotton, Jalen Ramsey, and Xavier Howard are both questionable, along with safety Javon Holland. So the Dolphins are going into this fairly beat up, but the Ravens are not far behind. They have Jalen Armour Davis, a cornerback missing, and then questionable, they have Zay Flowers, guard Kevin Zeitler, linebacker Delshawn Phillips, another cornerback Brandon Stevens, and Kyle Hamilton, safety. So a lot of important players on both sides of the ball are in question, and clearly they are also missing a few.
Yeah.
So it should be an interesting game. On to the Patriots, who are heading into Buffalo to take on the Bills. Keyshawn Butte, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Jabril Peppers will all be missing this game. And questionable will be Matthew Slater, Hunter Henry, Christian Barmore, Anthony Jennings, Jonathan Jones, Sean Wade, Miles Bryant, and Kyle Duggar. Among those, the important ones are, Butte isn't really, I guess, Juju being gone and Hunter Henry being questionable. He has had a late season surge. So
Yeah.
for the Bills, nobody has been ruled out, but among the questionable are AJ Epinesa, DeMar Hamlin, Daquan Jones, and Justin Shorter. So all of our main guys will be good to go. Most importantly, Josh Allen.
Yeah.
For the Falcons and Bears, where the Falcons will be heading into Chicago. The Falcons have an offensive lineman, Caleb McGarry, questionable. And for the Bears, Darnell Mooney will be missing, and Cole Kmet and an offensive lineman, Lucas Patrick, are questionable. Into the Titans, who are heading into Houston to play the Texans. The Titans will be missing offensive lineman Quentin Bohanna and cornerback Caleb Farley. And among the questionable are none of the offensive players that we look to play. So for the Texans, they'll be missing Jonathan Grenard, questionable Andrew Beck, Will Anderson, Malik Collins, Sheldon Rankins, Steven Nelson. So it is good to see that off this list are CJ Stroud and Nico Collins.
Yeah.
I think both of them should be good to play in this game. For the Raiders and Colts, Michael Mayer will be missing. Josh Jacobs is doubtful, so count on him to miss yet again.
hmm
Probably another Zamir White game. Questionable is Jermaine Illuminor and Andre James, both important pieces to the Raiders' offensive line, so that will be important to note. The Colts will be missing Zach Moss, and Cameron McGrone is doubtful. Michael Pittman is questionable, although he has been cleared to go, so he will very
Yeah.
likely be playing. Um, DJ Montgomery is also questionable, as well as Braden Smith, an offensive tackle, and Kenny Moore, a cornerback. The Carolina Panthers are heading to Jacksonville to play the Jags, where the Jags will be missing Trevor Lawrence. So CJ Beathard will get the start for that one. Zay Jones and offensive lineman Cam Robinson are questionable. Um, wasn't really looking forward to starting Zay Jones without Trevor Lawrence, anyways.
Yeah.
So for the Panthers, they're missing a cornerback, Troy Hill, J.C. Horn, Frankie Luvu, Ike Iquanu, and Marquise Haynes are all listed as questionable. For the Rams, heading into New York to play the Giants, Trey Tomlinson, a defensive back, will be missing, and Puka Nacua is the highlighted one among the questionable with a hip injury. Um, Looking into that one, definitely. If you have one of those late week championships, he's been a piece to getting you there, and hopefully he will be able to go in that one. For the Giants, Lawrence Cager will be out. Deontay Banks, Wan'Dale Robinson are questionable. Cardinals are heading into Philadelphia to play the Eagles, where Marquise Brown will be missing, and Kyler Murray is highlighted among those with a questionable tag with an illness. So, if you were planning on playing the tight end, whose name Trey McBride, that could have some effect.
Yeah.
And for the Eagles, they're still missing Darius Slay, and Zach Cunningham is questionable. Saints going to Tampa Bay, where they'll be missing Peyton Turner, but Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller are both questionable. Alvin Kamara with an illness. If both of them were to miss, I guess it would be a whole lot of Jamal Williams. For the Bucks, Shaq Barrett's out, and not really anyone important on the questionable. Or they have no one questionable. No one else really worth mentioning.
Yeah.
The Niners heading into Washington, where they will be missing Jawan Jennings, Ross Dwelly, Jalen Moore, Eric Armstead, and Jair Brown. Questionable. They should have all the important guys. So that stinger Brock Purdy got wasn't too significant.
Yeah.
For the okay, interestingly enough, for the Commanders, Jacoby Brissett is questionable with a hamstring, so should he not be able to go, Sam Howell will be starting again.
Yeah.
And that's really all for that one. Steelers heading into Seattle to take on the Seahawks, where the Seahawks will be missing Dwayne Eskridge, Jason Peters, Mario Edwards, Jordan Brooks, Frank Clark, who actually got cut, and Jamal Adams, who's placed on IR. Ken Walker, DK Metcalf are both questionable, but they both have missed a decent amount of practice this year. Would expect both of them to play, especially in a week where they need a win to stay alive in playoff hunt.
Yeah.
Chargers at Broncos. Keenan Allen, of course, missing again, but Josh Palmer will also be out with concussion. So a lot of Quentin Johnston and
Alex Erickson.
Gerald Everett, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't
Stone
know.
Smart.
Austin Eckler. Oh, probably. But for the Broncos, Cortland Sutton will be missing this game with a concussion.
That's big.
Also, Jerry Jeudy and Marvin Mims are also questionable. So it might be Jarrett Stidham throwing to Brandon Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey. When they are not yet out of playoff contention. Very interesting. Cincinnati at Kansas City, where Jamar Chase is questionable. Obviously, that's big. Kadarius Toney is out. Obviously, Jerick McKinnon's on IR. He won't be playing. But Isaiah Pacheco is questionable with a shoulder and concussion. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is apparently sick.
Yeah.
I'm not
Keontae
sure
Ingram.
who...
Okay. It's Keontae Ingram. That's who it would be. It's disgusting.
All right. Wow. Okay. They could very well end up losing that game if they don't have anybody out there. Packers at Minnesota. Christian Watson, go figure, is doubtful. As is Devondre Campbell, Luke Musgrave, Emmanuel Wilson, and Luke Tenuta. Dontavian Wicks is questionable. It's good to see our boy Jaden Reed off of that.
Yeah.
They're going to need him. Vikings will be missing No important, but Jordan Addison is questionable. That is important.
Yeah.
And that, my friends, will do it for the injury report. A lot of, I mean, as you can imagine, it's week 17. A lot of teams are battered. So
Yeah.
if you were unfortunate enough that your playoffs haven't ended by now, this is the laundry list that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But that's what we're doing this episode for. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into our Saturday game. Derek, take it away with the lines.
Or we're going to start with the Thursday recap.
Yeah, we should probably do that.
The Thursday game was the Jets at the Browns, a game that scored a lot more points than I thought would be scored. 57 total, to be exact. The Browns won fairly easily, 37-20. Zach Wilson did miss. We saw Trevor Siemian out there again for the Jets. And you know what? For playing against the Browns, he wasn't terrible by any means. He was 32 of 45, 261 yards, a touchdown, a pick, carried it 4 times for 13 yards, 14.74 fantasy points. I'll cut right to the chase. The two guys that we were most interested in. Breece Hall did Breece Hall things. He carried it 13 times for 84 yards. That's already very efficient. And then to add to that, he was targeted 9 times, and he caught all 9 of them for 42 yards and a touchdown, giving him 27.6. It was a monster week for Breece. In closing out this year and going into the next, it's going to be the same story with him. It's Breece Hall is extremely talented. Can he stay on the field? Is his durability has been in question, but when he's out there, he's as explosive as they come. He's just an amazing football player. Garrett Wilson had a bit more of a quiet week. He was targeted 10 times, but he only caught 5 for 50 yards. He also ran it 1 time for -1 yard, giving him 9.9. That's a bit of a disappointing week. His volume was there, but it was against the Browns, who do have a very formidable secondary, so I'm not
one against the pass.
Yeah, I'm not crazy surprised that this was the outcome that we got from Garrett Wilson, especially because, I mean, no hate to like Xavier Gibson, but there's no other crazy threat in that receiver room. I mean, Xavier Gibson was targeted 7 times, caught 4 of them, 33 yards, ran 1 on the ground for 8 yards, 8.1. Jason Brownlee was the only other Jet wide receiver to catch a pass. He caught both his targets for 28, giving him 4.8. Tyler Conklin, guy we are always riding the fence of, do we like this guy or not? He is solid. He does put up decent numbers for a tight end, and in this game, 5 targets, caught all 5, gave him 45 yards, 9.5 fantasy points. It's a solid week. And somehow, I mean, not somehow, but the Jets' defense also managed to finish with 14 fantasy points despite giving up 37 points.
It's because they got a pick 6.
Yeah, but if you did decide to roll the Jets' defense, they had a solid game.
Yeah, I did in that Yahoo league that I'm in the championship in.
It's a high risk, but paid off. I mean, screw it, 14 on a Thursday? We'll take it.
Yeah. That'd be all. Well, also, Greg Zerline, 13 points.
Yeah, Greg the leg.
Speaking of high-scoring defenses, the Browns' defense scored, depending on what format you were playing in, anywhere from 15 to 17 points. So, if you played either one of those defenses on that Thursday night game, congratulations. You're well on your way to winning the championship.
Yeah.
But getting more into the Browns side of the ball, Joe Flacco yet again. 19 for 29, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, a pick. Ran the ball twice for 3 yards. 23.7 fantasy points.
He got it done without Amari.
Without Amari, and he lost Elijah Moore at some point in this game as well. He went down with a pretty bad concussion. Moore only played 53% of the snaps. Cedric Tillman was the one who kind of took over as the wide receiver one, I guess you could call it. But at that point, I mean, the Browns didn't really need to run or pass the ball too much. So he got 4 targets, caught one of them for 8 yards. I mean, the wide receivers did not really play a big part in this game. Elijah Moore, like I said before he went out, was the number one guy. Um, got 6 targets, caught 5 of them for 61 and a touchdown, giving him 17.1 points. If you made the last second pivot to Elijah Moore because you were playing Amari Cooper, it worked out for you.
Yeah.
But the guy in this game I was most interested in was David Njoku, who in the first half went absolutely ballistic, had like 125 yards.
Yeah.
On 5 catches. Ended up only getting like one more 9-yard catch for the rest of the game, but he got 8 targets, caught 6 of them for 134, lost a fumble, unfortunately. So he scored 17.4 points, which out of your tight end in what, if you're still playing, is championship week or you're playing for third place trying to get your money back, that's a pretty good start.
Yeah.
Pretty happy with that. But the guy who kind of stole the show in this one, honestly, was Jerome Ford. Had 12 attempts for 64 yards. Fairly efficient day on the ground, which was great to see out of him. It's been kind of rough in that regard for the last few weeks, I'd say. But through the air, he caught 2 of his 3 passes for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy that if you were in that position you're playing this week, he likely helped you get there. You're at least flexing him, although we don't like to flex guys on the Thursday night matchup. But
Yeah.
so you were probably playing him. I played him in my RB1 position in our Dynasty League and reaped the benefits of that.
Yeah.
Even Kareem Hunt had a somewhat decent day, scoring a touchdown, but he ran the ball 10 times for 31 yards. He's kind of just
He's there.
time. Just when they're trying to crunch time between the tackles, that's what Kareem Hunt does. So he finishes with 9.1, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The Browns defense, Flacco, Ford, Njoku, and more.
Yeah.
And yeah, despite the score, there were not all too many people involved.
Yeah.
That will be it for that one. Now we can get on to that Saturday game.
Yeah, and this
Which
it's an exciting one.
should be far better.
Yeah,
Should be a much better football game.
yeah, it's the Lions at the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense is still 5th against the pass, giving up 184 yards a game, and 19th against the run, giving up basically 116 yards. The Lions side of the ball, Jared Goff. I don't love the Jared Goff start. When I was looking at him currently, he had a 30-point week against Denver. Week 15, but outside of that, since week 11, his highest scoring week is 18. So I just think there could be better options, and this Dallas defense is fairly good against the pass. We've seen Goff struggle against worse pass defenses. It's something that is possible of happening if there are better pivots, like we've talked about, pivoting to Stafford or guys like that later in the season. Even guys like a Joe Flacco. I know he's already played, so you can't do that now, but like a Joe Flacco, a Jake Browning, like there's just been guys that have been throwing the ball so much that it's hard not to like them a little bit more than Goff. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery should both be great starts. That's kind of the Cowboys' weak spot is the run, so David Montgomery should get it done there. Jahmyr Gibbs has seen his snap share drastically increase in the second half of the season. He's also getting the targets out the backfield, so he's a safe play, especially in PPR formats. And then Amon-Ra, obviously. There's nothing else to say about him. He's obviously put him in the lineup. And then Sam Laporta's had, what has it been, 2 kind of rougher weeks? No, he had 28 against the Broncos, but before that, he had 4 against Chicago and then 4 against Minnesota. He's still someone you throw out there. He's the number 2 target. He's their second best receiving threat outside of Amon-Ra. It's just, he's a guy that's gotten you to this point, and I don't like pivoting to someone off the waiver wire possibly last week of the season and keeping Sam Laporta on the bench. So he's someone I definitely am keeping in the lineup. I mean, he's still the tight end 3 on the season, despite a couple rougher finishes the past couple of weeks. But that's really it. I'm not starting the Lions defense. And who? Oh, they brought in Michael Badgley. Yeah, Michael Badgley's the kicker. He's got, even against the Broncos, they only scored touchdowns, so he got 6 fantasy points in the past week. He got 5 against Minnesota. So I think there's better kicking options out there.
Agree. And then on to the Dallas Cowboys. Detroit's still really good against the run. Tony Pollard's been just hasn't been that great. I mean, chances are, if you made it this far with him, I don't know if you have the choice of benching him. I don't know what options you would have at running back, but if you have the option and have anyone better, would you start Devin Singletary?
It's so tough because, yeah, he was doing so bad, and I'm just like looking right now, like week 11 through 14, 18, 22, 17, 16, and then the past 2, 7 and 5.
That's what I mean.
It's a scare. Yeah.
The recent trend
Yeah, I would.
is
I would start Singletary.
it's just rough because, I mean, if he's not catching passes against this Lions defense, it is going to be rough. It's going to be another single-digit week if he's not catching passes.
Yeah.
Without Rico Dowdle playing, it does give me a little more hope, especially with the absolute. I mean, you could very well say that lost them the game. That Hunter Lipke fumble.
Yeah.
I think they're very much inclined to trust Tony Pollard, so he should get a lot of volume. And if they make it that far, I think he will get the carries. But I mean, it's just tough. He hasn't in the last couple of weeks given us much to have hope with, and this
I
has been
agree.
the 2 most important weeks of the season. But if I think he's got a shot, just due to there's no Rico Dowdle, they don't really have anyone to pivot to. I mean, they got Deuce Vaughn and Lipke, who, like
I
I
knew you
said,
were going to say Deuce Vaughn. I knew you were going to mention it.
I mean, what let's just be realistic. They need to win this game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that sense, I think it's okay to roll Tony, but
It's a
could be
risk.
bad.
Yeah.
It could be bad. But aside from that, I mean, I don't really. Brandon Cooks is more difficult. It's like in a position if you have to flex him or something, then okay. But I think it's tough. But Jalen Waddle's out.
Yeah.
It's I don't hate it, but again, it could be rough if he doesn't get in the end zone. CeeDee Lamb is obvious. I think Dak's obvious, and hell, Brandon Aubrey, and I think Jake Ferguson is a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dallas defense?
Nah.
Nah, I agree.
I think this should be a high-scoring game. If you want to roll them, knowing what they can do in the way of turnovers, I don't hate that at all. They very well could get a pick six. And
Yeah.
as we know, a pick six changes everything in the way of defensive scoring. So
Yeah.
if you want to play them with that opportunity, go ahead. But just in mind that it could be a high-scoring game, and they could just be getting the ball out very fast. So they're not getting those points for sacks and whatnot, then, all things to consider. But
Yeah.
that will be all for this episode. We will be back with the Sunday morning previews in one, and then the rest of the previews in the next one. So we'll see you guys then. Stay tuned.
Yes, sir.